the most contagious. Let's talk about matters, therefore, this morning that affect the weight of the money in your pocket. Just a few minutes ago, we woke up to the news that again, the Gikomba market is on fire. So let me just take a moment and take you through to what the report says. I've just got this one from my director this morning. Here we go. Let me just open the link. Here's the thing, Mr. Rogo. Yeah. Fire raises stalls at line 42 section of Gikomba market in Nairobi. Efforts to contain the inferno underway as traders fear huge losses. We, the media fraternity, when we put the year together, it's now become a norm for us to say who is going to do reports of Gikomba fire this year.
Thanks, Elijah. I think there's a sense in which now we've seen Gikomba Fire Festival that is rehearsed by Sonko and Sonko Rescue Team.
Yes.
And without fear or conflict of it, we as residents of Nairobi City County must now begin to question if there is a sense in which some people are trying to systematically, erase people's businesses down. The way you've just read these takes, these are small-scale traders, the backbone of this country, the providers of the families, and the drivers of our economy. But anytime you're waking up to a fire in Gikomba, now it's become, I think this is the second one this year.
This is the second one this year.
It brings into fore what is our disaster management issues in the Nairobi City County. Do we have enough, enough fire machines? And if that is the case, do we have preventive measures to cushion people from huge losses? And it runs down into millions and millions of money. So I think this is an issue that probably we have to ask very difficult questions. If it is inspired, if it is something that is strategically placed to happen by default or by design,
yes.
And if that is the case, then I think whoever is in charge, the CEC in charge of this department should be actually begin us to resign or come up with an explanation in what's going on with
as to why we keep on having fires at Gikomba market time in, time out.
Even I keep on saying, even a small child, the way if you begin to ask, just tell them fire, they'll tell you Gikomba. Or they'll tell you toy.
Or they'll tell you toy.
Why are we having this kind of a national side towards belligerence in terms of intervening to prevent and cushions people from losing their property?
Yes, I'm just going to read for you a couple of comments that tell you how we Kenyans have now assimilated Gikomba market to fires. All right, now listen to that, and then you tell me whether there's the culture that even the government, all the people who are supposed to take care of this market are sort of assuming. Now listen, the first one, they keep burning my Macy's, all right, to grab the parcel of land. Number two, sisi watu wa Islando tutambia watu nini na huko ndio boutique yetu. Number three, now we should actually start celebrating Gikomba's National Fire Festival.
I have said, because it's periodic, it's premeditated.
Yes.
It is expected. So what makes it different from the national festival, the way somebody says?
Let's try to cast allegations or try to sort of assimilate our thinking in this direction. Are we allowed to say that there are other factors at play, all right, that sort of make Gikomba fires something that is sort of orchestrated? From people sitting somewhere saying, I think we need to start another fire again to control ABCD that we don't know.
You listen, Elijah, when I told you, this is an act that is inspired by human action, deliberately. Now, the issue about the land prices, you see, around CBD and all other environs, bringing to fore why it's targeted acts of arson. And you could actually see the stall 48 the way that have been mentioned.
Yes.
It's actually a danger zone in Gikomba. That is where fires are always ignited.
Yes.
I want to tell you something that, you see, if in a span of 1 year, and we are just not even between the first phase of this year, then we have had 2 fires successively. I think it brings to fore, is it a problem about somebody is trying to grab that land, but systematically chasing away the traders from it? And then what is the repercussions
Or
of
could
that?
it be an internal market control sort of force?
But no,
Because once you take out these traders, therefore, out of a certain section and make sure that they've made these deep losses, that means you're getting in new traders to come in and take over the other sections.
That could be one factor to reckon with. But then let's also think about this way. The Central Organization of Trade Unionists has their central office closer to that place.
Yes.
And this is a body that probably takes into the welfare of the workers. And I think it's quite important that's why I'm telling you, it's important for all the stakeholders. Is it a market control mechanism? Is it an act of arson? Is it an action that is inspired to probably grab some parcels of land? And this is why. Remember, we are going to think about the Nairobi City County trying to get alternative sources for the hawkers. Where do you take them? Yeah, probably burn some stalls down the line and probably resettle them to those stalls. So there is a number of factors that we could actually simulate and predict and analyze as a result of this fight.
And know exactly what's going to happen. So the last question on this, because it's a major issue now. And I know people are going to speak about this. And we keep on reading the same statements. We are looking into the issue. We'll get the culprits. We are investigating. But what you don't remember is that Gikomba market is the lifeline for most traders in this country, or for this city.
Yes.
Losses and more losses. Are we, if the government or the county government would know that therefore Gikomba market plays a central role into the trading ecosystem of the city, do we have a dichotomous culture from members of the business community in this country who sort of say, these small traders, we don't need to take care of them?
Well, if you look at the association, for example, of Kenya, of private sector alliance, especially the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, the logic behind the alliance is the fact that they do not discriminate any trader. As long as you're not in that kind of formal sector, you own a membership.
Yes.
And the way you've asked a very critical, important question, would there be, even within the politics of the markets, the control mechanisms of, the corporate, the governance within, those who are representing these small-scale traders, would there be, now could we think of how do we strengthen the representation of these small-scale traders into these mainstream, movements or mainstream welfare associations for traders and the business community? But again, as you mentioned, looking into the budget and looking at where do the Nairobi City County revenue, much of its revenue, if you look at the budget and appropriations, you find out that Gikomba probably contributes to 30%.
It contributes 30%,
It contributes to 30% of what we get in the CBD, in the Nairobi City County. So it's actually absurd for me, especially the chief, the CEC in charge of trade in Nairobi City, could take this matter and handle it once for all. Because then, like you said, it's a lifelong, not only to the city, not only to the country, but the region.
But the region as well.
This is one of the largest markets after Karatina and the rest in this region. Then why would we ignore the losses that the business community?
Perennial problems that these traders are facing in the market.
Why
would that be? That's a very nice question. That sort of makes us move into the next headline this morning. Kenyans are waking up to milk going up by 5 shillings. The question is this. Sometimes in the economy, we have oversupply of milk. All right? Do we sort of sit and wait? All right? Let's just wait, enjoy the milk, and sort of not thinking of what is going to happen next, because we do know our production patterns. They're well out and clear Are we the sort of a nation that,
Reactive
or we are reactive?
as opposed to being proactive.
Yes.
And this is our undoing as a country. First of all, milk is a basic commodity.
Yes.
And milk is what each and every one of us interact with as we grow up.
Uh-huh.
And so my question is, what is our preservation mechanism? Last time I said in this panel that it is absurd that as a country, we are a country that have a surplus and deficit at the same time.
Yes.
You call it milk, you call it maize, while others are dying of drought and the supply of, the shortage of supply of these commodities in certain countries. Others are enjoying the supplies in Uasin Gishu, in Trans Nzoia. So it's quite interesting. And I would like to tell you that the Kenya Dairy Board, for the first time, as much as they're trying to regulate the prices of the milk, why would you even employ techniques to look at how do we preserve our milk?
Our milk, because we do have sections in the country where we have overproduction of the milk, isn't it?
We do not have as a country.
Yes.
So when we have sections where there is, we sense that there's seasons. Our thing is about the agricultural production is seasonal, inspired by natural factors sometimes.
Yes.
But then could we learn on the techniques on how we can preserve it so that we can, and I said, this now takes me again to a very important thing, Elijah. The president explicitly addressed issues of food security.
Food security.
And I said in this panel, even as we predicted the address, it's not a matter of production, it's a matter of distribution. If we do not have equitable distribution of our basic commodities, and again, what I said here comes to haunt us. What is the welfare of our consumers? What is the welfare of the producers?
Yes.
What is the welfare of everybody within the chain of the businesses? That is why we are seeing, do we have a motivated approach for both consumers and manufacturers and also the suppliers?
Yes.
This is also what is haunting us in the milk. Now 500 ml has gone up
5 shillings.
5 shillings.
And guess what? It's not, that is the baseline price. Some other regions are going to experience more, because of trade factors that are happening, getting the milk, and also, different regions are going to have different prices.
The multiplier effect, that
Yes.
it has not only affected milk. This morning we're waking up to news that even tomatoes, onions, all other commodities, sorghum, definitely their prices have
be
gone
affected
up.
as well.
This brings the question is, have we ever thought of the regions that are struggling with production and
Yes.
consumption? Is the government coming up with mechanism to regulate this kind of prices? But if that is regulation, does it take to the welfare of consumers?
Does it take to
and
the welfare of
manufacturers?
the consumers and manufacturers? Same thing. Coastal maize flour, all right, up by 28% on short supply. Let's talk about agriculture in this economy. Let's talk about the support that the farmers have on this agriculture. Let's therefore base this from food security. Is the government biting its back?
It is biting more than it can chew.
Yes.
Yeah, because I advised this government to scale down on matters of the Big Four agenda.
Yes.
Concentrate on 2, food security and affordable health.
Concentrate to food security and affordable health.
Healthcare. The rest of the remaining agendas would map into that. Now look at what we are talking about, 28% maize.
Yes.
Of that kind of setup. Do we know the effects of this? Elijah, I think in 2017, we struggled with the shortage of maize.
Yes.
You can remember, where it was not in the government.
At all?
At all.
Yes.
In our chain of supplies and everywhere.
Yes.
Would you see exactly systematically that I think 2 things happened? Deliberate hoarding of maize,
Yes.
I tend to think so, or the National Cereals and Produce Board is struggling with the effects of regulating the prices of
Regulating
maize.
the prices of maize.
And
which brings me
Yes.
to the next question, therefore, before you talk about the National Cereals and Produce Board. I want to ask this question. is the government, because we do know our culture is the Unga culture. So when we're talking about sort of lessening the cost of living from the citizens, the first place you should go is that make sure that when you're checking the prices of commodities in the market, food prices should be kept at a constant or at a lower, and then balance the other sectors as well. So is the government deliberately or indeliberately not trying to check the cost of living from the Kenyans?
Yeah, and that's why I say it's giving with one hand, taking away with two.
Yes.
Because definitely that means that the Kenyans are going to struggle with, you've said we have an Unga culture. This is staple food. But then why would you always look like you're taxing or trying to hike the prices of the most basic? So either when, economically, we would say that it's taking from one basket, filling the other basket that is empty.
Yes.
Now the question is, which basket are we filling?
Which basket are we filling?
That is the question. Because definitely, and you could actually see what the government and all these institutions are trying to do.
Yes.
The state departments about the food prices and about regulating the price of the basic commodities.
Yes.
We do not know if whatever is taken from maize and other cereals are filling our baskets of borrowing, what we borrowed from the other countries.
Yes.
Or what probably there's a deficit in some you know, in some commodities.
Yes.
But I think that is not sustainable. Outrightly not sustainable.
Yes.
Because then it means it will deny the producers, it will deny those who are actually regulating the prices, the actual, to put their actual, what we call their actual knowledge and intervention about what should be, how they should deal with it in the produce and cereal and produce issues.
Yes.
That is exactly what it's quite dangerous, and I think it's not sustainable.
It's not,
and it would actually affect all other commodities, like you mentioned.
Yes.
Where would Mama Mboga be found? Where would Baba Mboga be found?
Yes.
Maize, unga, sorghum, onions, milk.
Because they sort of affect their prices.
This is where we are as a country and as a developing countries.
Yes.
We are not yet in where the government is trying to speed us when it comes to production.
Do you think the government is justified not to look into these issues? Because in the month of, just the end of the month, we were in May? Was it in May? Yes. May. We're in March.
We're in April.
We're in April now.
Yeah.
Just last month, they said that the inflation rate was quite within what it's expected to be. They put it at 4.14%, which they said is okay. All right?
What did the World Bank say about that?
The World Bank haven't given their stats. They're talking about the economic growth of Kenya, which they say is well within limits as well. Now, when you sort of look at the government looking at the inflation rate and saying we are within limit, we are doing fine, is that an okay argument as we get into April?
Listen, our economy now is at 5.6% GDP as we develop it. We cannot say with that kind of inflation, we are okay, because who are we? Okay, okay, who are we? And that's why I'm telling you, if you see we are trying to hike the prices of the most, the backbone of where the citizens, then it means that we are deliberately trying to hoodwink and trying to lie about our economic stand as a country. Why would we tax the middle class instead of just taxing those who are not capable?
Those who are not capable.
Consuming the most basic things at 55 shillings. That is where, actually, that is where you find us.
Yes.
When you say we are okay, we are not okay.
We are not okay. All right, that sort of moves us into the next issue, which is economy. Kenyans are trying to survive. All right?
Yeah.
Despite the government saying inflation is quite within limit and we are fine. Now, digital loans drag more Kenyans into debt.
A disaster in waiting.
Yes, Metropol CRB already has the stats. More and more of them getting into debt. They need to come for clearance. All right. Now, there's already a drafted bill, all right, to have these digital lenders, the mobile lenders, all right, who are enticing Kenyans into taking loans to be regulated by the central bank. Treat them as banks.
Yeah.
There's a bill, awaiting debate for the second time. Do you think we should let the digital lenders keep on dragging more Kenyans into debt, therefore affecting their credit scores, all right? Or should we therefore drag these digital lenders to be treated as banks, therefore leading into something called M-Pesa Bank or Airtel Bank? Or is it okay?
No,
Would this solve this problem?
I think the solution, it depends on where you are sitting on. Now listen, one of the things probably you haven't said is that those who are dragged into being delisted,
yes,
majority of them are young people. I think that is another statistic, the most interesting statistics that you probably, as Metropol, you should give us as a country. What is the percentage of young people into these?
Yes,
Are
so
they
have an age limit, isn't it?
As of age, remember last time we talked about a very interesting dynamic in the studio.
Yes.
Are they the ones that would be given a chance to leave this country?
Aha, I see now. That dynamic is interesting, isn't it?
What are they running away from? Because they're already listed, they cannot borrow any further.
Yes.
And yet, they are growing need. They have a growing need to meet their survival.
Yes.
Now, I agree. If we regulate these, mobile, these mobile listing and give them a banking status, then it's easy for the state to regulate. It's easy for the state to monitor the activities. It's easy even for the state to actually advise and even penalize some of them.
Yes.
Because look at, and I am a victim before, that you see, there is an allure towards getting quick loans in the applications. The danger is that anything that deals with an app, it's not easy to monitor.
It's not easy to monitor.
It is not easy to regulate. It's not easy to monitor.
Yes.
And it's quite enticing for young people who are actually looking for quick money to get into
quick
them.
money to get into their pockets.
The terms and conditions are not always, when you move into a bank, you find a teller tells you about the terms and conditions for defaulting,
yes,
and even how you would be assisted to pay for this.
Yes.
This is not within these lending institutions.
So you'd say that these digital lenders have no way to assess the low or high risks of these people who are going for these loans. And should that not be the role of the government? Yes, say, look, this person borrowing, all right, is from this level.
Listen.
And we can actually prove that before you give them a loan. So can you assess their risks so that in case now this person sort of defaults this loan, because that part and parcel affects the credit scores of these citizens in this country and therefore the economy as well.
Listen, mechanism for always doing that, and I think you've always seen, wherever you are asked to apply for these, the institutions will either ask you for the only way to know your credit history is to ask you to provide your national ID. So that they would cycle it up and then confirm if you have a loan pending or you have a bad credit history.
Yes.
But then that is the little.
Yes, that's the little.
That's the little.
And you can define that as risk.
Listen, right now we are enrolling NIMS system to find out exactly who is Elijah. Now, the ID, how many Kenyans have more than 3 IDs with different names and with different ID numbers? So even as much as we are trying to help Kenyans know exactly the risk they would take, we are also trying to help those credited institutions to actually know and avoid making losses by giving multiple borrowers who have the same identity.
Yes.
So I think the move is meant in 2 ways. That one, let us give them that kind of a banking status that would be easy to monitor and control. I think the central bank is actually controlling this.
Yes.
But then it is limited.
It is limited
because of the details, the security details that one issues when they're applying
for these loans. And I know there are multiplicity of them. There are so many around, and actually one can get a loan across all of them at a go. But here's the thing. Let's move into another issue. Hawkers menace in the CBD. Now,
I feel like standing when I'm answering that question, but it's okay. I would see that.
Please sit down. Hawkers menace in the CBD. Now, The Nairobi County government has decided we've run battles with Nairobi hawkers. I think they've learnt us, they've learnt our ways, and so the only thing is approach this issue from another angle. Now, if you buy anything from a hawker in the CBD, instead of the hawker getting arrested, it's you who's going to get arrested.
And
Do you think? Let's react on this. I have no question for that. Let's sort of sim into this issue.
Why would I be arrested for buying from a hawker?
Yeah, now the bill.
Who is a small business? No, it's
Yes.
called. I have seen the bill. It's called a trade bill.
Yes.
It's I think it's a policy. It's written by the trade CC.
Yes.
It is ill-advised.
Is it ill-advised?
It is ill-advised because Governor, when he was asked to give his manifesto in 100 days, he said he would give an alternative to the hawkers.
Yes.
And he would clear the city of the hawker menace.
Yes.
You said we react to it. Can
Yes.
you give it an objective touch?
Please do.
The objective touch is the fact that before any stakeholder or any duty bearer
Yes.
in the county government comes up with an initiative like this,
Yes.
please tell us how much does the county get from hawkers?
Uh-huh.
So that vis-a-vis why we would get them out of the CBD,
The CBD.
but vis-a-vis with what they give us
With what they
in terms
give
of the
back
revenue.
in terms of the revenue.
That wasn't done.
Yes.
Secondly, the fact that our interventions is again reactive.
Uh-huh.
I would have said this. Before we think of, because now it is a measure by then,
Yes.
by large is meant to discourage the hawkers from getting into CBD. It's meant to discourage you, a buyer, from buying from them, those Kenyans who are actually trying to make a living. For the fear, it is called what is called deterrence, deterring you from buying from somebody who's making a living like you. Now, giving it an objective touch, I think we again ask the county government to go back to the drawing board. First of all, could we have a mechanism of resettling and not running in battles with these young Kenyans and young women and young men? First of all, again, give us, the county government laws gives us a right to know what businesses, what revenue
Yes.
is and are we getting from these hawkers.
You know what they say? There are markets that are meant for you. Go there. We're in the process of establishing more markets for you. Please clear the CBD as we give you that solution. Do you think?
Again, it comes back to what you said.
Yes.
Where is the voice coming from? The big established businesses
Yes.
who feel threatened by the upsurge of these small-scale
I
businesses
see
and
now.
want to control the markets and the prices of commodities
All right.
in the Nairobi CBD. And it's systematically using the county government executive
Yes.
to come up with a measure. But then I am saying that it's gonna fall flat.
Yes.
This bill is gonna fall flat in the county assembly.
In the county
Because
assembly.
They would not. Some of them campaigned on a platform of improving the welfare of small-scale
small
businesses,
businesses,
within
isn't it?
Nairobi and its environment.
We hope
including
that
the city.
Sonko has more support, because we do know that his support has in the past been threatened. Well,
Yeah.
now I know the traders are praying that this doesn't go through.
It definitely is not gonna go. And
All
I'm
right.
telling
But
you,
would
the
would you say that if we clear the CBD of the hawker menace, we'll be fine?
that's true.
Yes.
That's why I said, could we give it an objective touch? We would be fine because that then improves efficiency
Yes.
and access to other businesses
Yes.
and the ease of movements and doing businesses. But again, it doesn't negate the fact that we have put away a chunk of small-scale traders who are also giving us revenue
Yes.
in the county budget.
All right, let's close because my director tells me that we only have a minute left. Just quickly, eyes on heavy losses, wipe out teachers, Spire Bank Capital. Here's the thing. SACCOs have been on the headlines in the past. We've talked about them on this show. We have. Over and over again. Now, SACCOs have been, Kenyans have a culture of saving. And the way to go is in SACCOs because the returns have been good. The investments of the SACCOs have been, the business portfolios for most SACCOs have been good. And also the business, the way they're approaching the business models, they've been really good. therefore enticing Kenyans to join them up. But now we've come to realize that even the biggest circles, like the Mwalimu Sacco, have been mismanaged by members of the board and some managers inside. Therefore, Mwalimu Sacco has a bank, Spire Bank.
Yeah.
Guess what? It's the only lender in the country at present operating with a negative, meaning they have nothing. Question is this: mismanagement and corruption in public offices.
Sad, Elijah. Very sad. Very unfortunate. Where are Kenyans investors, the small-scale investors, going to invest
Yes.
their savings? Where are they gonna put their investments?
Yes.
Could we begin? And I think in the registration of the circle and the department that is in charge of the circle, it's time that we look at the governance, the corporate governance within the circle.
Yes.
Because then, like I said, it's another disaster.
It's another disaster.
Recently,
indeed.
you see what happened to Ekeza Circle.
Yes.
And the upsurge on people who are lining up at DCI to record how they required, demand back what they invested that were no longer there.
Yes, that were no
Now
longer
for
there.
a bank to operate on
Yes,
a
on a negative.
you
It's
know,
really sad, and the people banking on it.
I-
Okay,
I-
last question on this. Is it time that the circles were also duly controlled by the Central Bank of Kenya?
Exactly.
Let's take up
And
these matters.
I think this is why we should take
Yes.
it away from Nyayo House and
Yes.
have the Central Bank of Kenya regulate the circle. Anything that touches of investment and
Yes.
saving, I think the Central Bank of Kenya should have
Should
an upper hand.
actually have an upper hand on it. On that note, Mr. Raga, we need to end this morning.
Always a
right. Good morning. You can actually get a
And
yes.
and let me once again I say,
Yes.
and some of my followers
Yes.
ask me again to say this.
Uh-huh.
If you're looking for a one-stop place to put data and have a factual analysis on what is going on in this country, this is a show to tune in. The government stakeholders that I interact with, the people, what's happening in the Nairobi County government, this is where the governor
actually
and the
know.
cabinet secretary should be tuned in the morning
And we
to
can
get the
talk about
factual figures of what should be happening in this county.
I can't say it anymore. On that note, we take another short break.